Hey, you're about to watch a sneak preview, the first 5 minutes of episode 1 from the Better Man podcast. 3 full episodes going live on Thursday, April 14th. Be sure to check them out. For now, enjoy this 5-minute preview.
Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man podcast. This is my intro episode to the show. So this is me introducing the show. I'm going to talk about why I wanted to start a podcast. I'll talk about some of the goals of the podcast. I'm going to go through some quick little stories about the creative process that I think you will find interesting. And I'm going to go into the 3 big reasons why I'm starting this podcast and why I think it's going to be helpful to you. Why should you, out of all the other podcasts that already exist, why should you listen to this one? So I'll start off by doing this by saying I just finished recording the intro for the show, and it actually took me a pretty long time to find a version or to come up with a version of the intro that I really liked. There were quite a few changes. There were quite a few back and forths. Initially, it was kind of too vague. There wasn't the idea of what this show stood for. Wasn't clear enough. It was just too broad, too general. And it also just took me a really long time to develop a short enough intro. There were so many ideas, there were so many thoughts on what this all meant, on the goals, that I really found it difficult condensing that into something that was, 30 to 45 seconds. So I just finished an intro. I just, and you probably heard it if you listen to this, if you listen to the podcast already, or the first part of this podcast. And it really did take me a long time to get it to a point where I felt like it conveyed the point of the podcast, but also was inspirational and broad enough that it would be interesting. And that was a lot of what the creative process of this podcast was. I actually flip-flopped a lot on the names. I think I started coming up with a name in January of this year, and I'm now recording this in March. And it took me a really long time to come up with the name. I had a ton of different ideas for what the name would be. And eventually I kind of kept coming back to this idea of the Better Man podcast, because it was inspiring. We all want to be better. At least I think most of us, if you're listening to this, you probably want to be better. But I also kind of wanted to redefine what that meant. What did being better mean? Because I didn't want to come up with a podcast that just said, this is what we need to do. This is what you need to do to be better. Because one of my core beliefs is that we are all different. We're all unique. We all have different values, or we reorganize our values differently. So we have certain values that are more important than others. We have certain core beliefs. So it's not really possible for us to hold ourselves to a universal set of standards, right? If we're all different, that just doesn't make sense to me. And I also thought that it was possible to be more successful, to be better, while not doing so at the expense of your own health or your own well-being. I think about that in terms of myself a lot, that I'm constantly trying to be better, but I'm doing so in a way that probably isn't great for my mental or my emotional well-being. I think there's a lot of guilt attached to, the success that I've been able to have, and comparing that to somebody else and saying, well, I haven't been able to do that. What's wrong with me? Or why haven't I done things differently? Why am I not using my time more efficiently? And so I wanted to kind of redefine being better as not just someone who's more successful, not just someone who's improving, but also someone who's doing that and taking care of themselves at the same time.